Somewhere in the Philippines, a man is sitting in front of his laptop at midnight. He invested his savings, his retirement fund, money he had spent 30 years building. And now, on a Tuesday night, he is doing the only thing left available to him. He is joining a Zoom call. On the other side of that screen is a woman named Francesca. But everyone calls her Mica. She is charming. She is poised. She speaks in the calm, reassuring cadence of someone who has done this many times before. And she has a message for the investors who are watching her. She tells them, the government is corrupt. Regulators are lying. The media is against her. And if everyone just stays patient, just a little longer, they will all be paid back. Every single peso. What these investors do not know, or perhaps cannot bring themselves to believe, is that Mica is not calling from Manila. She has fled the country. 2 Philippine courts have issued warrants for her arrest. Interpol has just placed her on its global red notice list. And yet, there she is, on the screen, smiling.
An Interpol red notice against Maria Francesca Tan.
To understand how this story ends, you first have to understand how it began. And the beginning, as Mica herself would tell it, sounds almost too good to be true. She was born into a family that understood ambition. Her father was an oncologist. Her mother ran a jewelry business. And as a girl, Mica sold small treats to patients in the hospital corridors where her father worked. She was learning something early, that money is not something that falls from the sky. You build it, relationship by relationship, transaction by transaction. By the time she was 13 years old, she was already trading on the Philippine stock market. At 15, she moved into foreign exchange. And at 19, she made the decision that would define her life. She would start her own private equity firm. She called it the MFT Group of Companies, the initials of her own name, Maria Francesca Tan, a firm built quite literally in her own image. The concept was elegant. Most private equity focused on startups. Mica targeted something different, legacy businesses, family-owned companies that had stagnated, enterprises with history, but no direction. She would come in, inject capital, and help them modernize. The results, at least on paper, were spectacular. By 2017, when Mica was just 27 years old, the MFT Group claimed operations across 9 countries and 18 cities. Its declared asset portfolio had reportedly reached the equivalent of over $60 million. And Mica herself had become something rare in Philippine business culture. A young woman at the very top, celebrated not despite her age and gender, but because of them. The media loved her. The titles piled up. The Filipino Women's Network named her one of the 100 most influential Filipino women in the world. Tatler Asia placed her on a prestigious Gen T list, a recognition of Asia's next generation of leaders. Business World profiled her. CNN Philippines interviewed her. She appeared as a mentor judge on the final pitch, the country's answer to Shark Tank, airing on History Channel. In 2022, she was named a finalist of the EY Entrepreneur of the Year Award in the Philippines, one of the most prestigious business honors in the country. She spoke about family businesses being the backbone of economies. She spoke about empowering women in finance. She spoke about the responsibility of wealth to serve something larger than the self. She was, by every visible measure, exactly what she appeared to be. Here is what was happening behind the scenes, according to Philippine prosecutors, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the Department of Justice. From as early as 2016, the MFT Group and its related entity, Foundry Ventures, was soliciting investments from the public, not through registered securities, not through properly licensed financial products, but through private contracts backed by promissory notes and post-dated checks. The pitch was simple, and it was compelling. Invest with us, and we will deliver you guaranteed annual returns of between 12 and 18%. Your capital we will use to finance purchase orders for our subsidiary projects. 12 to 18%, guaranteed. In a world where bank deposit rates hover around 2 or 3%, that is not just an attractive offer. It is a transformative one. And for hundreds of investors, doctors, business people, retirees, professionals, it was too good to pass up. In the early years, it worked. Checks were honored. Returns were paid. Confidence grew. Word spread. More money flowed in. This is a classic architecture of what prosecutors would later call a Ponzi scheme. You pay early investors using the money from later investors. The returns feel real because they are real for a while. The scheme does not collapse until the new money stops coming in fast enough to cover the obligations to the old money. But MFT Group did not just rely on word of mouth. According to the Department of Justice, the companies also engaged in what regulators described as deliberate misrepresentation at the highest level. The groups audited financial statements, the official documents that give investors confidence that a company's books are real, allegedly contained fabricated dividend income, hundreds of millions of pesos in declared dividends from subsidiaries that, according to investigators, had either never declared those dividends or simply did not have the retained earnings to support them. And here is where the story takes a turn that reaches well beyond one woman and one company. The external auditors who signed off on MFT Group's financial statements from 2018 to 2021 were not a small local firm. They were Isla Lipana & Company, the Philippine member firm of PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the 4 largest accounting firms on earth, with over 370,000 employees in 150 countries. PwC's clean audit stamp on a set of financial statements is not a formality. It is a signal to every investor, every bank, every regulator. These numbers are real. We have looked and we have confirmed. The Department of Justice alleged that 2 Isla Lipana auditors had, in effect, done the opposite, that they had validated financial statements that materially overstated MFT Group's income, and in doing so, provided the scheme with an air of institutional legitimacy that helped it attract and retain investors. Isla Lipana has stated it had no involvement in illicit activities. Those charges, like all charges in this case, remain allegations. The legal process is ongoing. But the effect on investors was real. One investor told reporters he had placed 10 million pesos, roughly the equivalent of 170,000 US dollars, into the scheme. Another sold property to invest. Others took out loans, borrowed against their futures, trusted the numbers they had been shown, validated by one of the biggest names in global accounting. And then, in 2022, the check started bouncing. When the first checks came back marked insufficient funds or account closed, the initial response from MFT Group was calm. There were explanations, technical delays, temporary liquidity issues, nothing to worry about, and then the Zoom calls began. Investors were gathered into online meetings. They were told that the problems were manageable, that payment schedules were being restructured, that spreadsheets had been prepared, laying out exactly when and how each investor would be repaid. Some investors found comfort in this. Mica was there, on the screen, personally addressing their concerns. She seemed in control. She had a plan. This was just a rough patch. Others were not so sure. By 2023 and 2024, as the delays stretched into months and the bounce checks multiplied, investor complaint began reaching the Securities and Exchange Commission. What the SEC found when it started digging would trigger a cascade of legal consequences that continues to this day. In January 2024, the SEC issued a cease and desist order against MFT Group and Foundry Ventures, prohibiting them from taking any further investments from the public. In April of the same year, that order was made permanent. In April 2024, the SEC filed a formal criminal complaint with the Department of Justice. The complaint named Mica, 33 other officers of the company, and the two Philippine auditors. The charges: illegal investment-taking activities, unauthorized sale of securities, and misrepresentation in audited financial statements. But when Philippine authorities moved to serve those warrants, they encountered a problem. Mica was gone.
Secured an Interpol red notice against Maria Francesca Tan.
Sources told Philippine media that authorities had spent weeks attempting to locate Tan in order to serve the arrest warrants. They could not find her. The suspicion, which quickly became widespread, was that she had already left the Philippines. Reports emerged that she had fled to the United States. And yet, here is a detail that makes this case unlike almost any financial crime story you have heard before. Even after leaving the country, Mica did not go quiet. She kept running the Zoom calls. From wherever she was, on the other side of the world, she continued hosting online meetings with her investors. She continued presenting payment schedules. She continued, according to investor accounts, insisting that the path forward was cooperation and patience. In an April 2026 meeting with creditors, the transcript of which was obtained by the Philippine Star, Mica delivered a message so brazen it would become one of the defining quotes of this case. We have to work, and none of these solutions will be successful if anything disrupts leadership or if I get detained. And I think anyone with common sense would agree. No one wants that. No one gets paid if that happens. So that cannot happen, right? Maria Francesca Tan, April 2026, as reported by the Philippine Star. Let that land for a moment. She is telling the very people she allegedly defrauded that they should, in their own interest, not want her to be arrested, that the only path to repayment runs through her, that the law itself is the obstacle. She also told creditors that shareholders filing cases against her only waste time, drain resources, and ultimately delay what everyone wants, which is repayment and resolution. And remarkably, this is perhaps the most psychologically compelling aspect of this entire case. It worked on some of them. One investor who recovered part of his money told Rappler magazine about the experience. When the checks first bounced, Zoom calls followed immediately. Promises were made, formalized in spreadsheets. He was told that while the accounts were frozen, payments would resume once court issues were resolved. There is a term for this kind of ongoing manipulation of victims by the perpetrator during a fraud investigation. Psychologists sometimes call it secondary victimization. You do not just take their money once. You continue to manage them, to shape their perception of reality, to keep them believing, or at least uncertain enough not to act decisively against you. Mica, whether by instinct or design, appears to have understood this deeply. By early 2026, the Philippine Securities and Exchange Commission had made a decision. Local arrest warrants were not enough. Something more was needed. They requested that Interpol issue a red notice against Maria Francesca Tan. An Interpol red notice is not a global arrest warrant. It is important to be precise about this. Interpol itself is a coordination body, not a law enforcement agency. A red notice is a request to the law enforcement agencies of all 196 member countries to locate a person and provisionally detain them pending extradition. In practice, it means that if Mica board the plane enters a border crossing or comes to the attention of police in virtually any country on oath, she can be detained and held for return to the Philippines. The red notice was published on the 25th of May, 2026. The SEC announced it publicly on the 18th of June, 2026, just days before this documentary was completed. Mica now faces charges for violations of the Securities Regulation Code, the Cybercrime Prevention Act, and syndicated estafa, which under Philippine law carries a potential sentence of life imprisonment. The Taguig City Regional Trial Court has issued a standing warrant for her arrest. The Batangas Regional Trial Court has issued a separate warrant for syndicated estafa, also non-bailable. Multiple cases are moving simultaneously through the Philippine legal system, and the Court of Appeals has extended the freeze on her accounts. 138 bank accounts, 4 securities accounts, 4 insurance accounts, for a further 6 months. The charges against MFT Group's auditors at Isla Lipana are also moving forward. The Department of Justice has alleged that the auditors aided and colluded with the group by validating financial statements that declare dividend income with no factual basis. If proven, this would represent one of the most significant auditor liability cases in Philippine legal history. Isla Lipana has denied any involvement in illicit activities. Those charges remain unproven allegations. In the legal documents, the victims are numbers. 32 individual complainants in the consolidated Taguig case, seeking a combined total of 83.9 million pesos in damages. More cases pending in other courts. An unknown number of investors who may never file formal complaints at all. But behind each number is a person. One investor, speaking anonymously to Rappler, said he had placed 10 million pesos into MFT Group. He is financially secure enough to absorb the loss, but he says he feels sad for those who gave smaller amounts. People who sold property. People who borrowed money to invest 100,000 pesos, roughly $1,700, hoping for a better future. They are the ones who are truly suffering, he said. There is something particular about financial fraud that makes it especially difficult to recover from, not just financially, but psychologically. Unlike a robbery, you do not just lose your money. You lose your judgment. You question yourself. How did you not see it? How could you have believed? And when the person who took your money continues to call you on Zoom, continues to tell you that she is the only one who can fix it, the damage to your sense of reality compounds. Some of Mica's investors, according to reports, still believe her, still think the government is the problem, still think she will come through. This is not stupidity. This is the architecture of manipulation, working exactly as it was designed to. The case of Mica raises questions that go far beyond one woman, one company, and one country. How does a private equity firm operate for nearly a decade, raising funds from hundreds of investors, producing audited financial statements, appearing on television, winning awards, before regulators move to stop it? How do auditors at a global Big Four firm sign off on financial statements that allegedly contain fabricated income? Is this a failure of process, of oversight, of incentives, or something more intentional? And what does it say about the power of image? The curated story of the young prodigy, the self-made woman, the millennial genius, that it can function as a kind of financial instrument in its own right. Mica did not just sell investment contracts. She sold a story about herself. And the awards, the magazine covers, the television appearances, the conference keynotes, all of it became collateral. social proof that the numbers were real. In the age of personal branding, the self is the product, and if the self is manufactured, everything built on top of it may be too. As of June 2026, Maria Francesca remains at large. Her precise location is unknown to authorities. The red notice is active. The warrants stand. The frozen accounts remain frozen. The court cases continue to move forward in Manila, Taguig, Batangas, and beyond. Maria Francesca Mica has not been convicted of any crime. All allegations in this documentary are drawn from official filings by the Philippine Securities and Exchange Commission, the Department of Justice, and the courts. She denies wrongdoing. The legal proceedings are ongoing. This channel will report on further developments as they occur. If this story shocked you, share it. It has barely been covered outside the Philippines. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, because in this case, something always does.